All right. So I will switch to Quoteprice application where I have already logged in as an admin user. So I have these options available. Okay. Now let me go to data and category and see. Okay. So here we have three application data types defined: request for quote, email, and category. Now, in this context, Quoteprice, suppose I need to define a new data type called service providers. Okay, so let's try to define it. Okay, so what I will do, I will press the plus button here, which will open the create new category screen for me. All right, so this is a new category, blank screen. Two properties on this tab are mandatory. That means to start with, I only need to define two things: the ID and the name of the new data type. And then my system will accept it and will begin. Okay, so let's see. I want to have it as service provider, right? So I will give it a name. The name is service provider. And then I need to also provide a unique ID value. As a convention I explained, suppose I use QUP as the prefix and I say service underscore provider, right? So it is like almost guaranteed that this is unique. Okay. And I will keep it unchecked because I want this to show up as one of the menu items. You see, there are a few things, but our session is started. At this stage itself, I can save and it will do what? It will store the definition. Now, because it's a application configuration change, ideally I will have to reload my application or re-login. But in this case, I can simply reload the screen by pressing this small icon here or press the refresh button of the browser. Either way, here you see a menu getting added with the same name, service provider. We didn't add anything here, right? Earlier it was not present. Now it is visible, and it is visible because this definition, this property not listed in navigation is set to false. That means by default it will get listed. And that's now look at service provider menu and see what is coming up. So I clicked on this and it says, actually it took us to the listing page, right? So CRUD screens are coming out of box for this new data type, service provider. And as expected, there are no service providers at the beginning. I can create one, I can modify and do all that. Now, let's try and create a service provider. When I clicked on this, basically it is showing me an almost blank screen. Why is this happening? It is happening because though I have defined the service provider category, but I didn't say what are the constituents of the service provider, right? I simply press a save button. Will it create any instance? Yes, it will. Let's try that out. It actually created an instance, and by default, a system ID is assigned as the ID or name. Now, carefully observe this. This is actually the ID, system ID for the instance of service provider object that is created, and this is visible in your URL as well. Let's go back to the list of service provider by clicking on the view all or pressing this service provider. Either way, I will see the list of service provider. Okay, so the main screen of service provider. Now it is not saying no service provider. It is saying an entry is created. If I keep adding things like that, it will show me. So let's get into the definition of service provider once again and try adding more properties. In fact, starting with